In preparation for Endgame, YouTube video essayist Nando V Movies assembled a team of other essayists to analyze certain scenes throughout the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, which they wonderfully titled, One Marvelous Scene. Now that Endgame has been out for a few weeks, and there has been over 100 videos in the series, I thought it would be too late, or a little bit too redundant to include my thoughts. However, as I was scanning through the videos already created, I realized there was one scene that was missing. One scene that I believe is one of the best in the entire MCU, one that is too good to be overlooked. This is one marvelous scene. The interaction between Black Panther and Zemo in Captain America Civil War.
I thought we would be safe there. My son was excited. He could see the Iron Man from the car window. I told my wife, don't worry. They're fighting in the city. We're miles from harm. When the dust cleared and the screaming stopped, it took me 2 days until I found their bodies. My father, still holding my wife and son in his arms.
For a bit of context, the Avengers have wrapped up their fight against Ultron in Sokovia, one that objectively decimated and ruined the city. The actions in Age of Ultron result in the death of the family of Sokovian citizen Baron Zemo, which caused him to seek revenge against the Avengers, leading to the event of Captain America Civil War. Now at this point in Civil War, Zemo succeeded in using Bucky to manipulate and split apart the Avengers. He managed to frame Bucky as the bomber of the UN Council and the killer of T'Challa's father, T'Chaka. This leads T'Challa to don the mantle of Black Panther and forces them to step up and become the King of Wakanda. Both T'Challa and Zemo are experiencing the same pain, both losing their loved ones as a result of the actions of the Avengers. Both want to unleash their rage and enact vengeance in their own respective ways, T'Challa through violence and Zemo by initiating violence. They essentially have the same motivations in this film. Both are trying to avenge the deaths of their lost family members. However, the scene does more than reinforce Zemo's intentions. It highlights T'Challa's character arc that sets up his actions through his solo film and all the way until Endgame. Whereas Zemo lets his rage consume him, which T'Challa does throughout Civil War, T'Challa instead learns to live with his pain and grow as a result of it.
Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me.
This revelation did not come out of nowhere though. There's a line earlier in the film that did not seem relevant at the time in 2016, but finally makes sense after 2018's Black Panther.
In my culture, death is not the end. It's more of a stepping off point. You reach out with both hands and bust and segment. They lead you into the green veldt where you can run forever.
Through this scene, T'Challa references the veldt seen in Black Panther, where souls rest after their death. This one little, seemingly insignificant line demonstrates the idea that T'Chaka's spirit still remains alive and is still looking over his son, which we see to be true in Black Panther. He understands that his father is still looking on and would not appreciate the violent means in which he tries to take. He understands that Wakanda needs more than a violent, tyrannical king. In T'Challa's eyes, it needs a leader like his father. Whereas T'Challa once decided to put Bucky's life into his own hands, he decides that the best way to act is through diplomacy and goodwill. He understands that by responding violently, he will in turn spark more violence, in the same manner that Bucky's brutal actions on that fateful December day in 1991 sparked the violence that divides Steve and Tony. This is exemplified by his willingness to save Zemo from committing suicide.
The living are not done with you yet.
Even though T'Challa knows that Zemo was the one who killed his father, his willingness to keep him alive shows that he has let go of his vengeful ways. Instead of being blinded by anger, he chooses a path of rationality, allowing him to serve as the moral middle ground between his Avenger counterparts. He leaves the fate of Bucky and Zemo up to justice, instead of taking their life into his own hands. This 2-minute scene does more than serve as the resolution of Civil War's main story arc. It wonderfully sets up the character of T'Challa and the Wakandan culture he follows. Through the interaction between T'Challa and Zemo, we are able to understand what the symbol of the Black Panther represents, thus understanding the character in which T'Challa strives to become. And through this realization, we are able to understand the motivations behind T'Challa's actions, not only in Civil War, but even in Black Panther and throughout the rest of the Infinity Saga. Because of this realization, we are able to understand why he opens up the Wakandan borders and helps the Avengers defend the stones against Thanos. It is this moment, this one marvelous scene, where we see T'Challa truly take the mantle of king, and more importantly, Black Panther.